In this week's Parsha Beshalakh, which means "and he sent out," when Pharaoh had let the people go from Egypt, God did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, lest perhaps the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. So God led the people around the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea, and the children of Israel went up in orderly ranks out of the land of Egypt. When we celebrate Pesach, or Passover, which as of the date of this video is coming up soon on the Hebrew calendar, part of the story we retell each year is the story of the Lord's redemption as he led the children of Israel out of Egypt. To illustrate the effects of his glorious redemption, the Lord said, "Say unto the children of Israel, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians, and I will rid you out of their bondage, and I will redeem you with a stretched out arm and with great judgments." What is redemption? As you can see in the definition of redeem, it can mean various things. In the biblical sense, though, to redeem is to pay a price to claim something back, especially something that was taken, almost like a ransom. As a good father, that is what the Lord does for all of us. The eternal God of Israel paid the price with his blood, the blood of his Son, who is one with him, to redeem us and buy us back from the hand of the enemy, to bring us out of spiritual Egypt and into his promised land. I and my family have indeed been redeemed, and the scriptures say, "Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, whom he has redeemed from the hand of the enemy." And as believers and followers of Yeshua, it is our right and privilege to proclaim that redemption to others, extending that invitation of redemption to anyone in the world who will accept it. In these end times, the followers of Messiah will overcome the accuser of the brethren by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. And as he is willing, we will not love our lives to the death. Because we know how powerful not only the blood of the Lamb, but also how powerful the word of our testimony is, part of our family's ministry has been to, quote, fear the Lord and serve him in truth with all our heart, considering what great things he has done for us. We are also to, quote, declare his glory among the nations and his wonders among all peoples. As a result, I am hoping to share with you a few aspects of the testimony of how our family began in ministry, with a special focus on just one of the many great miracles the Lord has performed for us and everyone else to see, to display his mighty power and glory. And as Pharaoh sent the Israelites out of Egypt in Beshalakh, so did our Lord Yeshua send all of his followers out to, quote, go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. Yeshua also said that we shall be witnesses to him in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the end of the earth. Since I have been redeemed from such a bad place, as long as the Lord gives me the ability, I pray that being a witness of his redemption is what he will continue to allow me to do. Before I share our testimony, however, I feel I must give a short disclaimer. Even though this has been my/our walk with the Lord, this is not a blueprint to follow for anyone else's service to him. If you give your life to the Lord, he may have you do things very differently than how he called us. As with any service to the Lord, it must be a calling. We felt called to serve him this way, and this may not be your calling. If you enter into service without being called, you may be walking in disobedience and out of his will, which may bring consequences. That is why walking in a relationship with the Lord is so important, and his calling will only be confirmed by his word. Remember, all of the members of the body of the Messiah are different, but we are all necessary. We all work together, and most importantly, we all have God as our Father and one head of the body, which is our wonderful Yeshua. With all that being said, here's our testimony. So to elaborate a bit more on what I stated in the introduction video, which will be linked in the description if you would like to see it. Since my husband and I got married, we were a typical Christian family. Like everyone, we had our ups and downs, but due to family problems and a job loss in 2009, in part due to the 2008 recession, our family was on the brink of collapse. We had been suffering emotionally and spiritually for various reasons. Our family almost got torn apart, and we almost lost our house due to foreclosure. For the next few minutes, this testimony is from my husband's point of view, and because he tells what happened much better than I ever could, I reviewed all of this information to be as accurate as it possibly could be from his own experience. So with nowhere else to turn, in utter desperation, my hubby gave his whole life to the Lord, promising to love him and serve him with all of his heart. On the day that changed everything, in the fall of 2010, my hubby had gone to the bank to deposit $20 in cash in order to keep the mortgage check from bouncing. After depositing, on his way out of the parking lot, in the median of the exit lane, there was a man holding up a sign that said, "I am hungry. God bless you." My hubby nodded to the man in greeting and then drove right past him to get into the turn lane to leave the parking lot and make his way home. As my hubby made the turn, he heard the Lord say, "You promised to serve me with all of your heart. Go back and help that man." For a few minutes, my hubby attempted to reason with the Lord that he couldn't help the man because we needed that money in the bank so the mortgage check wouldn't bounce so that we didn't lose the house. My hubby felt that God impressed on him that he would provide for all of our needs so he didn't need to worry. Reluctantly, my hubby drove back to where the man had been standing, and even though my hubby thought and sadly partially hoped he would be gone, the man holding the sign was still there. My hubby asked him if he was hungry. The man said yes, but then he quickly got into the car. They went to a nearby fast food restaurant, As the man ate, he only finished half of his sandwich and fries. My hubby asked him why he wasn't finishing his food, and he said it was because he was saving the other half for his pregnant fiancée. My hubby told him to eat the whole thing and that he would buy another meal for his fiancée, under the condition that he would verify his story by taking him to meet her. My hubby didn't really believe that his story was true. After the meal, when my hubby was going to drop the man off where he lived, he told him it was in the parking lot of another mall that had a large patch of woods in it near some unoccupied buildings. My hubby asked the man where they lived, and he said in the woods. My hubby thought he must be mistaken, or worse, he got concerned for his own safety, as if the man might attempt to hurt him in this secluded place. After insisting it was in fact the place, they both got out of the car, and saying a prayer, my hubby hesitantly followed the man into the woods. As my hubby walked, he says he felt some kind of layers peeling away from him, as if perhaps he was entering another dimension. Not only was the pregnant fiancée indeed there in the woods, as the man had said, but there was a camp where they had a little fire to keep warm, and tents providing living accommodations for various individuals. My hubby felt the Lord strongly urging him to continue ministering to people living under these circumstances with his word. Even though we were not in a good financial place ourselves, we seemed to be potentially on the verge of needing to be living in the woods ourselves. During that time, which is a time of deep spiritual and emotional healing for our family, the ministry the Lord gave us became known as Don't Give Up Ministries, and my hubby and I officially became ordained ministers in early 2011. As I was writing this, I realized that this weekend marks the 14th anniversary of our ordination. Thanks be to the Lord, not only did the mortgage check from that day not bounce, and we didn't lose the house, He has also allowed my hubby and I to be full-time ministers, moving to a physical location here at Yeshua's temple since 2014, while thankfully to Him, He also allows us to continue mobile ministry to the community each week. The Lord has always provided for all of our needs, doing exceedingly abundantly above all that we could ever ask or think, according to the power that works in us. With all the Lord has brought us through emotionally, spiritually, and physically, we are thankful that He continually allows us to comfort those who are in any trouble with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God. Only the Lord knows what He holds for us into the future, and I pray that He will allow us to continue to be His servants and dwell in His house forever. And even though it has been so challenging and the experiences have tested our faith at every turn, we're so thankful for the opportunities to serve and persevere that He has given us. It has been the greatest blessing and adventure, and personally, I love it so much that I wouldn't trade it for the world. There is another part of our testimony, especially since we moved to our current location, that I would like to share with you. So the day that Hurricane Ian hit Lakeland, Florida, on the wee hours of September 30th into October 1st, 2022, we were in the temple building preparing to weather the storm, when, during the worst part of the storm, all of a sudden we heard the sound of loud thunder. But the thunder kept going for what seemed like a full minute. We knew that wasn't normal, but we didn't know what it was. We had some pumps running in the back to keep the rising water from entering the building from the heavy rain, and we were keeping watch on the pumps through the clear glass back doors to make sure they were working properly. After that loud and continuous thunder, I attempted to look through the back door to see the pumps, but could see nothing but black. I called my hubby to check, and he discerned it was the roof shingles that were torn off from end to end in one single huge sheet and crumpled into an enormous pile outside the back door, blocking our view and exit out of that door. Suddenly, water started leaking from the ceiling, and my hubby said we needed to leave the building immediately. Thanks to the Lord, there's a parsonage on the property, and that was where we spent the rest of the storm. Here's a pile of shingles outside the back door after the storm. This incident was truly an act of God if I had ever seen one. We surmised that it was our tornado that ripped off the roof because of the noise, and because there was no other building near us that had any sort of damage like what happened here. We did not have hurricane coverage on the property and no money to replace the roof, so for almost an entire year we made do as best we could with tarps, buckets, prayers for no rain, and dehumidifiers running after any time it did rain. We were continually asking for referrals from our brothers and sisters about someone who could help to replace the roof, but all that time no one seemed to know anyone who could help. Until one day, the owner of a roofing company, a friend of one of the attendees of the Messianic congregation who attended here at the time, came to the building and said, "I feel generous," and left. We didn't know what that meant and felt awkward asking him. Did he mean he would make us pay for supplies and he would donate the labor? Did he mean he would give us a discount? Did he mean he would allow us to pay for the roof in installments? We didn't hear anything back for a few months. In the meantime, as we waited, I myself got very discouraged. I thought we might have to close the sanctuary building down due to health and safety concerns because of the constant leaks in the roof. But my hubby, the eternal optimist, said, "Trust in the Lord." A few weeks later, we got word that the entire roof of this large building would be replaced at absolutely no cost cost to the ministry. On August 15th of 2023, almost a full year after the storm, work began on the roof, and it took only 3 days to complete, and they went far beyond what was necessary to do an absolutely fantastic job. While we had been waiting for the Lord, I asked him why it wasn't just a portion of the roof that got torn off, but the whole entire roof. We could afford a patch job, I thought. As at other times, the Lord gave me no answer for a while, but I finally received my answer when the workers began removing the wood underneath where the shingles had been. As I watched, these roofers threw huge batches of splintered, rotted wood down into the dumpsters. It occurred to me that the roof of this building had probably never been replaced since the building was built way back when. If we had done a patch job, the warped and rotted wood would not have allowed any patches to hold, and as a result, the roof would be leaking again in no time. The Lord had to rip the entire roof off in order to expose the rotten wood and completely replace it. That is a whole other spiritual lesson in itself, but for time's sake, I will leave it there. Not only did the company replace the rotten wood and put a brand new OTP roof on the building, the owner didn't even put up signs advertising his company in the front lawn, which he originally stated was his only request of us. Every day we ask the Lord to richly and overabundantly bless that man and his company. As a result of what he did, we have been able to continue ministering here, and every time it rains, we say a prayer of praise and thanksgiving to the Lord for this wonderful and beautiful covering he has given us, reminiscent of the chuppah or canopy of love and protection he puts over his bride, people who love and adore him and are eagerly awaiting his return. May the Lord receive all the praise and honor and glory for this and everything he has done for us. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. May your Beshalach Torah Portion Shabbat be blessed, and may the Lord richly bless all of you and your families.